Right guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm in my 1993 Nissan 100Nx, and for the first time in many months, it's now back on the road with a clean MOT with not a single advisory item and 12 months tax. I'm really pleased about this actually. I'm glad I saved it. If you remember, I bought this car initially as a donor vehicle for the blue one. Then when I saw it, it was just too good to break. I just couldn't bring myself to sentence it to death. It just looked too good. So I did what any petrolhead would do and rescued it. It's genuinely quite satisfying that. I mean, it might not mean an awful lot to you, but this car is 30 years old and it will be full of stories. I know it's a bit sad and romantic of me to want to save everything, but it's just nice knowing that this isn't the end of the road for this little NX. Although it's now got a clean MOT, there is still a good number of jobs to do to it. Right now I'm taking it to my gearbox specialist for an automatic gearbox service. I don't know whether this has ever been done, and it's done 147,000 miles and it's 30 years old. And I'm guessing the gearbox fluid will be as black as ink. So I thought, just to prolong its life and prevent it breaking, I'll treat it to some fresh fluid and filter. To be fair to the little NX, it drives really well. The gearbox is really smooth, the engine's silent. It's quite a pleasant car to be in, especially on a nice sunny day with the roof off. It's quite a nice experience. At my mechanics, where I've just picked this up from, it's had all its mechanical work done. So it's had a full engine service, new filters and fluids, all that sort of stuff. It's had fresh wiper blades front and back. It's had a little bit of welding for its MOT. And I also asked them to Schultz the underside, so it's been completely wax oiled. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that should prevent it from rusting any further. So this little NX should be on the roads for many more years to come. In addition to the full service, the fresh spark plugs, the clean MOT, they also checked the alternator. The alternator wasn't charging the battery properly, so they replaced it with a brand new one. I think, you know, it was the original part, so it's lasted 30 years. They really don't make cars like this anymore. My mechanic actually commented on what a clean, tidy car it was, so I was quite pleased about that. It's obviously been looked after by its previous owners. It's also nice to see this little Nissan back on its original wheels. Now, if you remember when I first showed you this car back in the previous video, it had 3 aftermarket wheels and then 1 original. So I had a brainwave. I got my mechanic to take the original wheels off the blue one, 911, L911 EUD. I asked him to take the wheels and tyres off that, the tyres I just replaced, and then put them onto this one. So this now has got 4 brand new tyres and its original wheels, and it looks a whole lot better for it. Once I pick it up from the gearbox specialist later, then I'm going to take it down to Jimmy the Magician, who's going to hopefully transform the appearance of it. It needs a little bit of paint and a very good buff, but I've already showed this car to Jimmy and he's confident he can get a nice deep shine back into it. He said although the paintwork looks very dull and very flat, he's confident he can get this looking like a new car again, and I can't wait to see it. That'll be a big day in this NX's life actually. Once I've picked it up from Jimmy and it looks like new again, then all it needs is a very good clean. And that's about it. Then I suppose all that'll be left to do is find this little NX a new home. I need to find somebody who really looks after it, really treasures it, and keeps it on the road for decades to come. Although I'm sure that won't be too much of a challenge. I really can't tell you how good this thing drives. I mean, it isn't quick or anything, but it's just really pleasant and effortless. Driving it on a nice sunny day like today really is a pleasure. Actually, thinking about it, let me pull over somewhere and I'll talk you through exactly what I've got to do. Right then, here will do. I'll give you a quick tour. There we go. Now you might be wondering why the stereo is poking out like that. Well, hang on, I've got it jammed. It kept asking me for its code. It obviously had a flat battery at some point and there wasn't a shred of paperwork in the car, so I didn't know what the code was. So I found a company online that would tell me what the code was. All I needed to do was give them the serial number off the top. So I popped the stereo out, and then luckily there's a sticker on the top from a place called Smith's Auto Services Bristol Limited in St George. And they've kindly written the code on the sticker for me. So that's saved me a couple of quid. And now we've got a fully functioning radio, which is nice. In addition to that, the glove compartment's broken, so I need to find a replacement. The trim here is broken. There should be a little flap here to cover the storage area. That's broken and missing. My seat's a little bit loose. I don't know whether that can be tightened up or I could just swap it for another one. There's nothing really wrong with it, but it's a bit annoying. I also need some new mats. I need a cigarette lighter because that one's missing. And I've noticed there's a cigarette burn on the base of the rear seat, the rear bench. So I'm thinking if I can find a replacement, I could just swap the whole bench over. I could take it to my upholstery guy, but I think it'd be easier and cheaper just to replace the bench. Let me show you the bodywork then. I'll talk you through exactly what I'm going to have done. Now in terms of bodywork, it doesn't need an awful lot, to be honest. The inside needs a good clean as well. I'm pretty sure those seats will come up looking nice and clean. All it needs is a wet vac. So the worst area of the body is here. Somebody's repaired it with I think Play-Doh. It's a terrible job, that. So that needs to be repaired properly. And then I spoke to Jimmy, he's going to blow the paint into the door to blend it nicely. This here, where this is slightly damaged, this pillar, he's going to paint that. He's going to buff all the other panels and then do some touch-ins of any rust spots, so it will look the part. All this area here, which looks very flat, looks like a chalkboard really, that will buff back, Jimmy's assured me. He said that the car's probably been garage most of its life, and he's convinced that this will buff back. Moving around here, I've ordered some new reg plates for it, by the way, which I shall fit myself. There's a bracket here. This seems to be quite a common issue with the NX. There's a bracket behind here which rusts, and then it kind of pops that little valance out. So he's going to take this off, clean that up, paint it with probably Hammerite, and then put it all back. So it shouldn't then, you know, burst. This needs painting, this area here, and he's also going to paint this front wing. There are a couple of little marks here. There's a dent there. There's another one. Oh, there we go. Another dent there. Now, I was going to get the lads from Dents to pop those dents out, but Jimmy said that that wasn't necessary. He said he may as well paint it because this needs painting anyway, so he can just fill it and then paint over it, and it will look pretty good. Something else I might get done, I might have the wheels refurbished. They're in reasonable condition, they're not flaking or anything, but they do have some curb damage around the outer rim, so I might run it over to Prestige wheels and get those powder coated. Now, down this side, the bodywork's pretty good. There's no rust here. Weirdly, they always seem to rust on the offside, not the near side. This will all be buffed back, not painted. And again, the rear bumper, I think that's been painted previously because you can see a little bit of overspray down here on the mud flaps. So it just wants a good detail, really. This rear spoiler here doesn't have any lack appeal, so again, that'll buff back. And that's it, really. There's no rust around the rear wiper. There's not an awful lot of rust on the whole car. You know, for a 30-year-old car, it's pretty good going. Now, you might be wondering something. Because I've now put the donor vehicle for the blue car back on the road, where am I going to get all these parts from? Well, I have just the answer. I know what you're thinking. You're probably sat at home now doing your best Brenda from Bristol impression, aren't you?
You're joking. Not another one?
I know, but I swear I haven't lost the plot. What I've done here, guys and girls, is bought another one. This is the third NX, which now means I own 4% or something of all NXs currently registered in the UK. How cool is that? But I bought this one strictly as a donor vehicle. Now, I saw this for sale for £500 on Facebook Marketplace, and it had some horrible white wheels on it. But when I read the advert properly, he said that he had the original set of wheels for it. So I thought, well, for £500, that just makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I messaged the guy and asked him various questions because I was keen to know whether the glove compartment was in good condition, the stereo fascia was in good condition, and this little panel down here. And to my surprise, it all was. So I thought, for £500, I really can't go wrong. I'd have spent 200 on a set of wheels, wouldn't I? I'd have spent 100 on all the other bits. I thought with this, I can strip it, take everything I need off it for those two NXs that are good, and then whatever I'm left with, just scrap. The reason I won't feel too badly about scrapping this one is I don't think it's had an easy life. The last owners tracked it, which explains why I've got this racing steering wheel and racing Sparco mud flaps. I just think for the last few years it's had a very hard life. The seller also was upfront about the engine smoking, which, to be fair, every time I've driven this, I've driven it a couple of times now, it's been fine. I haven't seen any smoke at all. But I suspect after he's thrashed it around a track for a couple of hours, the engine does smoke. And that's why I'm not all that bothered about putting this one back on the road. This one is strictly a donor vehicle. Also, what's not great on this one is the clutch. It's got a mind of its own. But still, it's quite a fun little car to drive, especially being manual. I mean, the white automatic one drives very well. It's very pleasant and smooth. But the blue one just reminds me of an MX-5. It's just quite a fun car to drive and work through the gears. Even though I suspect this one's had a hard life, all the bits I need are still intact. And that's why I just thought this was £500 well spent. When I did a vehicle history check on this, it all checked out fine as well, so it hasn't been involved in an accident. Now, it's really important that you do one of these checks before you hand over any cash for a used car or motorbike. I always use a company called Car Vertical, and they're really easy to use. By the way, if you want to save yourself 20% off each and every one of these checks that you do, just use my promo code HIGHPEAK. That's HIGHPEAK, all one word, HIGHPEAK. Or alternatively, click the link below in the video description. But as you can see with this one, it's never been stolen, never been written off, there's no outstanding finance on it, and the odometer isn't hiding any secrets. This one's done 134,000 miles. If you scroll down to the MOT history, we can see this is MOT'd until the 31st of May next year, so it's completely road legal. What's good about Car Vertical is that it checks databases in dozens of countries. It checks hundreds of millions of cars, so it isn't just a UK thing. Like I say, if you want to avoid buying a car with a skeleton in its closet, make sure you check out Car Vertical. Use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off. Right, well thanks Car Vertical for sponsoring today's video. What else can I tell you about this car then that I've nicknamed 707? It's the only way really that I can keep track of all these NXs. My plan then in the short term is to put some new tyres on it and then put these original wheels back on 911. That's my plan. I'm going to take the parcel shelf off this one and put it onto the white one. I'm going to take the glove compartment from this and put it onto the white one. I might actually lift the whole boot lid off this and put it onto 911 because the struts are good on this one and the boot lid's in much better condition. It still needs to be painted, but it's nowhere near as rusty. I'm going to swap the stereo fascia here and put it on the white one, and the same thing with this little storage compartment here. So as much as I don't like to scrap any car, I really hate doing that, I think I can save 2 solid NXs with this. Sadly then, that means L707 will be sacrificed, but it's for a good cause, don't you think? It'll have meant that I've saved 2 NXs, 2 very rare cars. I think that's quite a good cause. I'm not a fan of this racing steering wheel though. The suede is now gone all soft. It's left my hands black. It is good fun to drive with this. It's almost too good to scrap. But I will. I've got to. Can't keep collecting them, can I? I've got nowhere for them. Let me pull over then and I'll give you a quick tour of L707. Once it gets warm, you know, the clutch does get better in this. Just when it's cold, it's got a mind of its own. I suspect that's the cable. I'm not sure though. The engine sounds sweet as well. And I don't know what he was talking about when he told me the engine smokes. There's no sign of any smoke anywhere. When we were messaging and he told me the engine smokes, I was expecting this to be like some sort of James Bond style car where I couldn't see out my rearview mirror. But it's far from it. Oh yes. I suppose this might have been quite good fun around a track. Right, here we'll do then. Let me show you around it. So this one's finished in the same cobalt blue as 911, but it's a little bit scabby. It's got the original wheels though, which is a good thing. And some of the tyres actually look all right. I mean, that one, for example, has got loads of tread on it. It's just far scabbier in most places than 911. The front of this one though is actually in better condition, I think. You can see where it's been tracked. They've got the name of the driver and the passenger, Mr. B. Oddy and Mr. P. Nesshead. My plan with this boot lid was to swap it straight onto the other one, straight onto 911, because although this does need painting, there's no rust here where the wiper arm would go, and there's no rust here. So it is in far better nick. In addition to that, let me show you this. I've already swapped the parcel shelf over. So this one is actually the one from the old white one. This one had original rubber NX mats as well, so I've put those in the white one. I've just kind of salvaged anything that I can from it. This one as well came with the leather bags that you put the T-bar top in. So I've put those in the boot of the white one because they were missing. What else? This one's got the shades. That's all good. We've got an original spare as well. Now the white one's missing its spare, so I'll put this back in that. There are loads of valuable parts here. The rear bench on this one's in very good condition, so I'm going to put that onto the white one. I had a quick look on eBay and they're really hard to find parts for. So for example, these rear lights, there are a couple on eBay for £50 each. Same with the headlamps. So if I can strip this of those parts, there's 200 quid worth of parts there alone. I might, in fact, let's look at the condition of the driver's seat. Because if this driver's seat's in better condition than the white one, which it is, it still rocks a little bit. But it is slightly better than the white one, so I might swap this over. In addition to that, there's loads of interior trim that I can salvage. And then I might just, well, I will scrap this ultimately, but for now, I might just park it in a garage that I've got and just save it. You never know what other parts I might need one day. So I think rather than scrap it and regret it, I think for now I'll do that. So I'll probably do a part 3 of this series. I hope you're enjoying this NX content, because I'll do another one once the L911's back on the road. Once that's MOT'd and roadworthy, I'll do another video just explaining where we're up to with everything. Hopefully by then the white one will be back from the body shop and it'll look like a new car. So I think that's about it. So as always, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. Thanks Car Vertical for sponsoring today's video. And yeah, cheers guys. See you next time.